Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Factorio. So, Charlie is no longer with us, but I'm here with Jasmine as artillery, and this is G-Man. So, we've done a couple things since we left off in the last episode, including making a bigger stone brick production here, and laying some stone brick down on the factory floor to make it nicer and so that we can run around faster. Jazz is writing me a message in conveyor belts. Oh, rip Charlie. We'll leave that as a memorial
What?
for our fearless leader.
There we go.
Okay, so the first thing we should start doing today is probably an iron bus, I think, Jazz. Unless you have, well, you probably have a much better idea, but unless you want to share that better idea.
No, for now, as much as we've got like a nice sort of iron production, we probably want to expand it slightly. And we do have a basic copper production, but we probably want to expand that up to probably 12 furnaces, and the iron probably up to probably I would say because currently we've got 14 by there, so we might want 28, so 2 rows of that.
Okay. So I will start on the 2 rows of iron. And do you want to do some of the copper?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so I'm just going to make another one of these to the bottom here. We're coming up the middle with coal and iron, then fast inserters, furnaces, fast inserters, and then more conveyor belts. Jazz is going to do something for the copper, and we'll be back as soon as we're done. Hello everyone, G-Man here in post-commentary. So we're going to time-lapse this building of the second array of furnaces. This is a new thing we're trying, so feel free to let us know in the comments if you like it, if you want to see more of it, and I'll just let you enjoy the music for the next minute. So, we are finished the iron production. We added a second set, sort of, to this array of furnaces. And now we're going to link this huge array up to a belt, which we're going to build to the left of the forest beneath us. We'll be right back as soon as we're done with that. So, we are back, and we have finished the first 3 buses. The first one is for iron. Now, a bus is a kind of center line of your factory. You put your raw resources into it, and then you branch off to your other assembly lines. This kind of has an efficient way of connecting your factory together and also having some buffer and storage space between your assembly lines and your production. So we have the extra iron we built all going through this contraption for having a buffer of iron in chests to these this bus, which we're going to extend down farther. and it will kind of branch off to all of the other assembly lines we build. Jazz built this up here to have a production of bullets, because that's going to be important if we get attacked. And we will be back as soon as we have coal and copper connected to these other 2 buses. Okay, so we have linked all 3 buses up to their producers. So we have a iron bus, a copper bus, and a coal bus. Right now, Jasmine is setting up a lot of assemblers to the iron, and I believe we're going to be making some gears. Hello, it's Gman back again in post-commentary. I liked the time-lapse so much the first time, I decided to do it again, so enjoy. Okay, so Jazz has set up this assembly line for assembling gears. Now, only the first about 3 pairs are active, but let's talk about how they're both kind of drawing and pulling to the same belt in the middle here to make this super, super condensed, because we don't want to cut down a lot of trees. Go for it, Jazz.
I mean, we will eventually like clear this entire forest.
Yes.
Just we don't have all the tools to be able to. Speaking of tools, we've got some more, but not the ones that we entirely need.
Yay.
The ones we probably need, I'd almost say smart inserters, just because it's quick.
And then that's heading towards distribution. Now, so how does this work?
Oh wow, the gears are backing up. So how does what work? All this belt.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a mess, so it might be a bit easier if I like condense it down into a chunk. So for me, a chunk will basically be 2 of these in line, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So easiest way to refer to the chunk is the fact that in each part of it, you're taking off the one belt for however much of resources that you need, and then you're putting back on across to the second one. It doesn't really need power, I'm just sort of setting up a pseudo.
Okay.
As it were. Now, the useful thing about patterns is that they are is that you can replicate them. Being that, so the key point of how this works is the fact of long-handed inserters. They can reach over to another belt. I hope that you're using Alt to display the actual tooltips and such.
Yes.
Because that will actually show people what you're doing. But basically what's happening. Did you actually link it up to power?
I did. It's just these aren't getting any.
Okay. So if we were to drop something on the top belt, the inserters all work as if they're right next to it. So the fast inserters, the two fast ones, pull into the top, and the two long ones down here for each of them pull off that same belt because the long ones take from a square further. And then once they're done, the small ones here and the long ones here then take from the machine and place on the second belt. Now there's a few interactions that get a bit interesting, so I'll go over them slightly. Just require like two sort of small belts like that, I guess, and then one like that. There we go. So, on the first one, where is it? There we go. No.
Okay.
On the first one, I'm going to place a belt like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way that the game works doesn't actually allow this to really work, but it does another way. So if I was to, now we can use power. When you put it on by the inserter, which it is, and then it places back on. So specifically what these underground belts are, they're not just unique things, they can be pulled from in that sense. Which allows me, when I'm setting up these ones, to place using the long-handed inserters onto the underground belt tile,
Okay.
which basically makes up for that additional gap. If you wanted to be OCD for looks, you could just quite happily shift over the long-handed inserters. Like, that is interchangeable. And then you get like a nice little mirror pattern, actually.
All right.
If you're smart, because it would help for you to start being smart.
Like that's gonna happen, but sure.
You probably want to save a blueprint specifically of this layout.
How do I do blueprints? This is something that has been lost on me.
Okay, so fun thing about blueprints is I can keep pasting them, and they really do work well once you've got a system going.
Oh, I hit B. Got it.
You can go up to the top left, top right, sorry, and the first small icon underneath the tech is a book. And that book is the blueprint book in that sense, where you can create blueprints. So I might as well explain them to you. You have three different things. Ignore the red ones for now. New blueprint book. It's entirely useless. You really should not just save. Like, you've currently got a blank book in your storage. You don't care about that.
Okay.
So you can, with an empty hand, right-click it and hit the little red button to delete that blueprint specifically.
Okay.
And it'll take it away from your storage. The other half of it, so you end up taking a new blueprint and you basically click and drag a box around whatever you want. Now, the specific thing being that it has to actually be a box, which tends to interfere with some things and may pick up the corners of other bits. So you have to be kind of aware when you're doing so.
Okay.
You got it. Now, the blueprint book itself, because I've shared a blueprint book, so you can see the solar cells blueprint book, take one of those for a second.
Yeah.
I'll cancel the ones that you did. There you go. Now, there's actually two blueprints within the blueprint book. So you'd select it, and then as the book tells you when you hover over it, it'll tell you exactly what your tooltip is. So for me, it's shift and then mouse wheel. And while it's selected, I can toggle between the two different blueprints in it. So those, I was to remove them, and I was to remove them. you could instead place the massive amount of solar cell of the accumulators. Sense.
So wait, how do I? Oh. Huh.
Yep.
Cool.
Save a ton of blueprints in a book, but it's a lot better if you save them in sort of topics almost. So the book that I put down is a solar cells book. It's specifically for solar panel sort of related stuff, and then you can just paste the chunks wherever you want. So I might as well like make that the assembly one public, so you sort of can grab a copy of this assembly sort of thing whenever you need.
Okay.
I also, because it's habit, I love making this specific blueprint, which is literally just tracks. It's the one that I use to expand belts. I just sort of shift click and walk, and it basically, because there's a few ways to do it. If you just click, it attempts to place it. And if it can't place all of it, it won't place it at all. Whereas if you shift and left click to place the blueprint, it will attempt to write over. So if I went to some of these trees and tried placing it, you can see it tries to delete them. Whereas
Yeah.
if I just normally left click, it won't.
Okay. For the next stage of construction, after I'm done building this bus, what next do we have to do?
So we haven't so as much as we've been researching things, we haven't exactly automated researching things. Now it's convenient that we have a supply of gears that we are piping into the bus, that we don't actually have to care about piping into the bus because circumstance. So because they happen to already be over here, I don't have to care about piping them off.
Mm-hmm.
But what we can care about doing is making red science. So I
Okay.
might as well, because it helps and it's funny. I could do something like this and start placing the thing that I just made
Perfect.
out perfectly and count exactly as many as I want. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Might as well go for 12. And you can see exactly how far it'll take us.
Okay, so we're going to build this red science thingy. Like this red science producer. We will be back as soon as we're done with that.
But the blueprints are literally just meant to guide some of your actions rather than... That worries me though.
What?
I'll get on to that in a bit.
What does?
So I'll make a couple of long-headed inserters and then I'll get onto that.
What just happened?
Do I have enough? I have enough at least.
Jasmine, what just happened?
Nothing.
Oh. Then what worries you?
I just tend to pay more attention to things than you, so...
I want to know. What happened?
Try and work out what happened. Now, thinking about that, I kind of did that wrong. Not wrong.
Oh, our power is way down.
There you go. You worked it out.
Yay!
Another thing, because it's like, remember I was talking about blueprints.
Uh-huh.
Remember how we're low on power. Remember I have a blueprint specifically for power.
Yeah.
Oh look, what do you think would be useful right about now?
A blueprint for power? On the
How
other side?
useful? And work out exactly how far it goes. See, it fits it fits perfectly actually. Jeez. I like how accurate my counting is, apparently.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that I conveniently earlier made enough steam engines and boilers. I wonder why.
Yeah.
It's almost as if I'm good at future-proofing things.
Do you want me to pipe these red science somewhere?
We can quite happily... Well, actually, no. We should probably consider where we're going to set up the science, because we're probably going to like take away from some of the trees and sort of push it underneath the copper belt. So probably having like a couple of rows of labs by here.
Yeah.
Probably starting from about here, maybe, so that we have a bit more room to pipe different sciences and stuff up as well later on in the game.
Okay.
How much power are we actually choking on? Why are we choking on them? Biggest consumption is the radars, really. Steam engines aren't fully. Coal. That would be it. It's not. It's not the fact that we need more power. It's the fact we need more coal, I believe. I love how like my failsafe has actually kept the thing. I love how like my failsafe has actually kept the base alive rather than anything else.
What's your
So what I did
failsafe? This is probably good.
earlier, yeah, what I didn't mention earlier. So you know how all of these inserters require power to work. So if they
Yeah.
all run out of power,
Oh, you have two burner
end
ones
of
down
the belt.
here.
Yep, I put a failsafe specifically if the base runs out of power, they'll auto power themselves.
Perfect.
That does mean that we now need to produce more coal, basically.
If you want to move over, I'm gonna place a drill right where you're standing.
Yeah, I was just sort of my attention's being taken.
Oh, and I suppose this burner thingy is also probably a massive failsafe.
Yes, both of them are fail safes deliberately because I know the system can shut down.
There, I put a second one if you... I can make myself a burner inserter.
So I'm not sure why everything choked, but I ended up throwing in a bunch of wood so that the coal can backlog. If that makes sense.
We could
So it'll
probably
burn
hook
through
the
the
coal
coal.
up to our coal bus.
Oh yeah, probably. Or if anything, we probably want to like route the coal over here. But
Okay, I'm gonna start deforesting. Okay, so we are getting more iron because we decided that we didn't have enough coming in. So I am just running the belt back to the base, and Jasmine is setting up all of the drills and the furnaces.
so there was two different ways to load balance in a sense. Depends on whether or not you have the splitters or the room. They take up exactly the same amount of space, just differently.
Okay. Is one any better?
50-50. This one does exact 50-50, splits the belt to both sides of the thing. But what this one does is it actually pays attention so that if one side overflows, it'll throw it on the other. This one doesn't really do that so well.
Okay. Do you want to set up furnaces up there, or do you want to set them up closer to the base?
Honestly, we could probably set them up here because there's conveniently a coal source.
Yeah. Oh, we have steel furnaces. We should definitely do that soon.
I mean, if you really wanted to. Do you want to know what we could do?
What?
Think about it for a second.
Oh, we could make this steel.
Yes, we could. Almost specifically, we could probably, if we're going this far, because we can expand the belt out that far quite a lot, we could just split quite a few of this. So half the belt going one way, half of the belt going to steel. Weird
Gotcha.
thing being is that it needs fuel, so unfortunately we've got to do that as well.
So we have the extra coal.
Yep. It's almost as if this was planned.
Oh man. Funniest part is, not at all.
Okay, cool. And then I'll like throw that on a belt. Boop, 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 boop. Now, the thing about this is it takes even longer to get through this next bit. So we'll start there because it's a bit nicer on positioning. One more because that's the furnaces that I have. There we go. Cool. So, the exact recipe for steel. So you can quite happily go into your inventory and intermediate products for steel. You can see it requires 5 iron plates.
Uh-huh. And it takes
So this is going to pull a
17.5
lot of iron.
seconds. Yeah.
But yeah, it takes forever and will pull a ton of iron. Which is why I'm like, we can just expand this out. The convenience of this design is we can literally just expand more and more furnaces until we hit a wall, basically. Which there are none, because it's an infinite map.
Yay!
So there's a few different sort of parts of steel furnaces. The first one is the fact that it's got a quicker crafting speed.
Uh-huh.
A lot. That's quite useful. And in efficiency terms, by that sense, it would use less fuel. So because it crafts twice as quick, it's using half the fuel.
Gotcha.
But I don't remember whether or not that is actually true. I thought it was at one point. But yes, it does mean that now we've doubled the speed of our steel production. We're not getting enough iron, as it were, along the belt. So we're still producing the same amount of steel, there's just a lot more room for it. Which we will eventually counter in a few minutes by finishing automation. Was it automation? No. Logistics. So that's 200 red, 200 green. And we would be able to upgrade the belts, and then they'd be able to carry more items per second, meaning it would get further along the belt because of it.
Okay. Welcome back. So we have set up another iron production over here. And we also set up some small steel production, which we then use to upgrade these furnaces into steel furnaces. I upgraded some of the furnaces melting iron into steel furnaces as well, so we're getting a ton of iron sent back to the iron bus. So this concludes the second episode of Factorio. The third episode will be out shortly, but it was recorded on the same day, so your feedback won't be addressed until the fourth episode. I'd just like to say thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.